that's all helping the economy.
Absolutely.
And so it's, people think of art as this like flimsy, esoteric thing, but it actually helps the community to have things that are happening.
Yep.
So that's why investing in the arts and investing in organizations like ours it's not, yes, it's great from a social perspective, but from an economic perspective, it is also essential, or else it's just condos.
Yeah. It's just condos.
That should be the name of the
Yeah,
episode.
yeah.
Just condos.
It's not just condos. Welcome to Table 6. Today we're spotlighting one of Toronto's most beloved and essential cultural events, Inside Out, Canada's largest 2S LGBTQ+ film festivals, where queer stories and storytellers take center stage. We're joined by Elie Chivi, the festival's executive director and total force of nature, who's leading the charge into a major anniversary year. From red carpet premieres to must-see underground gems, we're digging into what's next for queer cinema, why this festival matters so deeply to the community, and why Inside Out still hits different. So pull up a chair. This one's going to be great. Elie, welcome. Welcome to Table 6.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so great to have you here today.
I appreciate it.
Year 35 of Inside Out Film Festival from the 90s. I want to start off talking about the power of film. I know for me, being a 90s baby, like going through the 90s, seeing representation for myself as a Black person, as a queer person from the Caribbean. I can name off a list of shows and even some headline news. Ellen DeGeneres is the first one that comes to mind. And how that actually shaped who I am and who I was eventually to become. Yeah. Can you share with us sort of from a personal level and on a personal level, how has film shaped your life and also your personal journey and how that's actually impacted the film festival?
Yeah, and thank you so much for having me and spotlighting the festival. In terms of how film entered my life, it was from a very early age. I grew up in the Middle East where we would receive films really late. Sometimes they'd be really censored. So in terms of seeing my own story reflected on screen, that didn't happen until I immigrated to Canada. But what did happen is I was able to see that there was more out there. There was, if it's not necessarily a queer character, there is someone going through some kind of journey that I could like latch my hope onto and be like, well, if that person is going through that, then maybe I can go through whatever I'm going through.
Yeah.
I grew up in the late 80s and early 90s in Dubai, and I moved to between Dubai and Beirut in the Middle East, and I moved to Canada in the early 2000s, and that was the first time I saw a film uncensored and unedited. And a lot of the movies that I had seen growing up would be like clipped together, and like there'd be so much context missing.
Yeah.
But when I finally moved here, I was 16 years old, and I could. It was a Pedro Almodovar film called Bad Education. It was the first film I'd ever seen of his, but also one of the first queer films I'd ever seen that was fully uncensored, and it just unlocked this whole world of what's possible in terms of storytelling, but also what's possible in terms of being able to access some of your own stories on screen and have that be reflected in a way that wasn't always negative.
Yeah.
And for me personally, I mean, I went through so much bullying in school. I grew up in a very religious Christian household, and my parents were, put me through conversion therapy.
Wow.
And there's been, it's been a tough road for me and obviously millions and millions of others. And the movie theater was, my church in a weird way, because I could go in for 2 hours, 2.5 hours, sometimes 3, because movies are long now. They were long back then.
Or just stay for a second screening.
Or do that, and I wouldn't pay. It's okay. I was young, but to be able to just know that, okay, for the next 2 hours I'm safe, and also I'm going to be transported to anywhere else. That's the power of cinema. And now with Inside Out, I've been with the festival for 5 years. It is such a privilege and an honor to be able to continue to create that space for the community that helped build it. 35 years, way before my time. But also to be able to still take care of it for the next gen.
That's great.
It's an absolute privilege, for sure.
Yeah.
if you could say, that movies have changed you, how would you describe that, in terms of what it has meant to your life?
I mean, I think, and it's very hard to pinpoint specific ones. It's more of this feeling that you get when you're about to be transported with someone else's story, that you're not alone, and especially when you grew up in a place where your rights don't exist as a queer person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd always hear about like really horrible things happening to people in my community or in the region, and those things still happen. So to be able to not create, sorry, to be able to watch something that again isn't always negative is kind of sometimes the only hope you have as a little gay boy or a little
Yeah.
gay person who doesn't know anyone in
Yeah.
real life who's queer or doesn't feel safe to come out. So it's not one specific film. It's not one specific moment. It's the consistency of having that medium as kind of like there to support you through your journey as you grow up and find your community in real
Yeah.
life.
And know that you're accepted as who you
Yeah.
are. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
which
really
is-
powerful.
It's like we can probably talk about this later on, but it's a very tough time to be a member of the queer community. It's really scary out there for us.
Yeah.
And the festival ebbs and flows in terms of what we stand for, but now more than ever, it is a political act to be able to still come together as a community and watch our stories together.
So for the viewers and listeners at home, can you tell us a little bit about this year's upcoming festival? What's the theme? What are we celebrating this year as you turn 35?
Yeah, I mean, thank you for thinking that I'm still 35. That hasn't happened in a little bit, but that's fine. I mean, to kind of springboard what I was just talking about, community is the word of the year for us. Unlocking community, unlocking queer film, and what those two things can bring together. Officially, the theme, as we like to call it, is we're celebrating community, connection, and the stories we collect along the way. And for that is transported, so to speak, in the program that we've put together. The festival is May 23rd to June 1st, so it's right before Pride.
Yeah.
So we're like the opening act. And with the program, you'll see stories of resilience, stories of the truth of what it looks like and what it feels like to be a queer person today. It is the 35th, so we're doing a little bit of looking back.
Retrospective?
Yeah, we have year-round retrospective screenings, but the festival itself also, there's some pieces that speak to the community that, again, came before us. But one thing we really wanted to make sure happened or was existed within the program was hope. Because, again, we have to have hope, because if we don't, the world really does feel hopeless along the way.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, sorry. And the last thing I'll say is, in terms of the program itself, it's as diverse as the community is. There's something for everyone, and we say that every year, but it really is true to the program this year. I was looking at the schedule and like all the different things. It's always changing in terms of what the community stands for, and the program. We have to make sure that
It's
reflects
reflective
that.
of that. Yeah, for
exactly.
sure.
Yeah.
How do you keep the essence of the festival while allowing it to sort of like advance and evolve over time? Because I think for 35 years, like we've seen so much change that has happened with the festival and also with the times that we're in, right?
Yeah.
Even if you think about just beyond geopolitically, like just thinking from a technological standpoint.
Yeah.
How do you kind of find the balance between the two?
I mean, I can only speak to how I have led the organization and how I choose to lead the team, which is that we always have to remain agile. We always have to remain nimble in terms of how we evolve. In the past 5 years, I joined the organization during the pandemic. We've dealt with one industry strike and then another industry strike, and the inflation rates that we're dealing with. It's just everything we're always swimming upstream, it feels like.
Yeah.
And that kind of nimbleness and agility is reflected with how we program the festival. Is every year things change, things evolve, and the festival that was in 1991 is not the festival that you see today, and is not the festival that you see 5 years from now. And the way our community continues to evolve and different identities emerge, different people's perspectives change, so do we, and that's good. That's okay. And I think whether it's a film festival or a business or any kind of other organization that has a stakeholder base that is not the same every year. You have to be open-minded and continue to evolve while respecting where you came from, which is an element that we really are doing a lot of this year, considering it's our 35th.
Yeah.
Just related to that, so it's been a celebration. It's called a festival, which connotes it's a celebration, which it is, and it's acknowledging and celebrating the community, but it's also an act of political statement as well. I know that's there's been a bit of a pendulum shift, right, over the past couple of years, especially what's happening the south of us. D&I programs are, being erased. Corporate funding is going away or diminishing. We're seeing people who are, using it more for like a marketing thing and not a genuine value for the company, which is heartbreaking. So can you comment on that shift that we're seeing and why then the festival still remains so relevant?
I know, and you really hit the nail on the head in terms of the climate south of the border is volatile. Let's just say that, and we're not immune to it. Inside Out alone this year, we lost about $175,000 in corporate sponsorship from organizations that have pulled back for reasons because they're scared about what's happening in the market, or organizations that have pulled back due to cuts to DEI. And that's a big number, and we are not the only ones that are going through this. There's an article in the New York Times the other day, I don't know if you saw it, about Pride Toronto and Pride San Francisco, and unfortunately, tons of other organizations. So from a financial perspective, it impacts us for sure. But the sadder thing is we have, for example, some filmmakers who are choosing not to come to the festival because they're scared of leaving the States and not knowing if they'll be allowed back in. Their gender markers on their passports say one thing. They're scared that they're going to be turned to the gender that they were supposedly assigned at birth. And that's the actual day-to-day of how the impacts of certain policies have on culture, just as a big picture. That means that's 10, 15, 20, however number of filmmakers that are not coming to Toronto because they are scared. And that is really scary because sure, we can figure out ways to keep people engaged. You can always zoom in or things like that, but the in-person is where the magic is. So it's why we are doubling down on community, because when certain sponsors say they love us one year but then somehow have to pull their funding the next year, it's our community that is who built the festival is what's going to help us sustain it. But no, it's been very challenging, and I know a lot of our other partner queer organizations have been going through the same thing.
I've been feeling it.
Not to name names, but there are many sponsors who've changed course.
That's unfortunate.
Well, I love that you brought it back to community and connection and the importance of that. And I was saying to Lori the other day that one of my most memorable experiences was 2016's Inside Out Film Festival. And it's something that really reflects community. I was had just returned from the Bahamas. My mom was just diagnosed with cancer, and I had to be strong for the family. And I ended up going into the opening night thinking I was going to have this sort of break from all the stress just to escape. And wouldn't you know it, the movie, I think, was named Other People.
Oh, God.
And
that was that year.
Molly Shannon and Jesse Plemons.
Way to go.
Oh, my
sorry.
God.
That was before your time, though.
It was before my time, but I speak for the organization.
You can't blame Elie for that.
Well, I remember going into it thinking uh-oh, what am I getting myself into? And I got halfway through and I started sobbing. And I won't give any of it away, but I remember just this movie sort of foreshadowed what happened to me for the next year. And before the credits rolled, I was trying to get myself together before the lights came on. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to be so embarrassed. And when it was done, it was silent. And everyone in the theater was like wiping and trying to collect themselves. And what I realized was like, wow, this is a collective experience that you don't get by being on the couch watching this at home alone.
Yeah.
You get that by being in community. And I actually made a lot of friends afterwards. I went to the opening event, and a lot of them connected me, and they were my friends and continue to be my friends today because of that. So I really want to thank Inside Out, first of all, for sort of preparing me for what was to come, but also helping me to connect and to really connect into the community.
That's amazing, and I'm so sorry to hear about your mom. The film is very powerful. Well, I've seen it. I wasn't there that night, but I have seen it, but what you are speaking to in that experience is exactly why whenever people ask us, what do you think is going to happen to the future of film festivals or movie theaters in general? I think you just have to have that one magical experience, and it'll just impact and cascade for years, because we are competing against the couch a lot of the time. And I even watched a movie last night that shall remain nameless, but I was just and I watch a lot of movies all the time, but I didn't like it because I was on my phone half the time.
Right.
Yeah.
And if I had just paid attention, I probably would have enjoyed it. Exactly. And I'm in the industry, and I'm someone who really respects film and filmmakers, et cetera, et cetera. But so I can only imagine for folks who aren't as invested and are just putting something on for the sake of having something on, you're not really experiencing the magic of what the story is trying to tell you. And
you're distracted. You're not quite absorbing the message or feeling what you're supposed to be feeling. And I think that's why Dana, your story is so touching, but also film festivals in general, to bring people to the big screen and to watch it in a way that sometimes that's the only medium that you can see that film. It might not get picked up by distributors.
Totally.
And so talk to us a little bit about that, and because I think that's really important for upcoming filmmakers to keep pursuing that dream, because that's how your art might get seen.
It's interesting you bring that up. We've been talking about that a lot recently. We're working on our strategic plan for the next 5 years, and I won't bore your listeners with that, I promise. But a big conversation was, a lot of the times you see that there's a film at a film festival, ours or otherwise, it might be the only time you'll see this movie, or at least for a very long time.
Right.
Because especially when it's like a niche queer story that isn't necessarily a mainstream whether it's like how it's told or what it's about, it's not your traditional film. Seeing it at a film festival is probably the only time you'll ever get to catch it. And so there is that like time-bound, eventized approach to why you need to go out and support your film festivals. One, because you're supporting a queer organization. In our case, we're a nonprofit, and we support filmmakers behind the scenes, et cetera, et cetera. But for your own purposes, if you are interested in watching films or things that aren't necessarily just going to be at your local theater, sometimes it's going to be the only time you can catch them, because distribution is and that's a whole other podcast. But
it just gives you the opportunity to see different viewpoints, different perspectives, life through other people's eyes versus what's curated for us on more of a mainstream screen. It's really important for people to come out. So I hope people do get out there and can you give us any kind of glimpse? I know your program's already launched, and you talked about the theme earlier, but what are some of the other activities or things that people can get involved in? I know you have a special opening night program.
For sure. Outerlands is our opening night film. It's a really special story about an individual who's kind of like saddled with taking care of a youth that they thought they were just babysitting, but turns out now they're stuck having to be their parent.
That's my worst nightmare.
I know. It's a horror film. It's not a horror film, but it is a horror film. And that film, we chose to open the festival because it really spoke to community. To go back to that word, it really provided an insight into how families are kind of shaped and formed and chosen in a lot of ways. But in general, as I mentioned earlier, there's a wide variety of kind of like genres, but also mediums. So you had mentioned that we, maybe back in the day, we were just a film festival, but now we have shorts, we have short docs, we have docs, and the thing that surprised us the most is series. Now we have um, aired and will continue to show episodes of shows because as most other mediums of storytelling, TV has become such an amazing place for creators to go and do their work. So we're actually screening the finale of Hacks,
Okay.
which is really,
fun.
really fun.
That's cool.
We'll make sure to get you some tickets.
Thank you.
So that we're really excited about. In terms of other films, there's a film called The Crowd that was filmed in secret in Iran.
Oh, wow.
And it is about a party that some folks are planning for their friend who's moving away, and it was shot, I think, in like 20 days in very challenging conditions.
Yeah.
And so there's that, but it's also an incredible film. So that would be my personal reco.
Okay.
But I'm really also excited. We're airing a documentary called I'm Your Venus, which is like a spiritual sequel to Paris is Burning, the very famous documentary about the voguing and ball scene from the early 90s. That is airing on closing weekend. And then if I could just plug one more thing, we have every year we do a shorts program called Local Heroes, and that's on the Thursday of the festival. So I think the date would be the 28th or 29th. I'm not sure. I should know though.
I think that's the 29th.
Okay,
the
great.
Thursday. That's a thing I do. I don't
Have you
know
seen the
why. I'm
schedule?
kind of like Rain Man that way. Yeah.
Okay,
I
great.
just know dates.
Fabulous. Yeah, because June 1st is Sunday, so work our way back.
Yeah.
There. But Local Heroes is for local talent. So for anyone listening who really cares about supporting local filmmakers and local artists, it's a shorts program that
That's
is
cool.
curated every year with only local filmmakers and
From Toronto.
From Toronto.
Cool.
And a lot of the films that you see there eventually, become projects that people take and turn them into features. So it's a really good like breeding ground for discovery. And we do a karaoke party afterwards.
Oh,
which is also
Fun.
really,
Our
really
producer
fun.
Will would
Yeah.
love that.
Fabulous. But yeah, those are
Awesome.
some. But the program,
That sounds
is
exciting.
on insideout.ca. It's there's I think almost 100 different things to choose from between shorts and features.
Okay, and tickets are on sale now, so go
Yeah.
get your tickets.
Yeah.
Yeah, go get your tickets.
Yeah. Where's the camera?
Say it to all of them.
All of them.
There's a lot.
Well, I think that's really great to have just such a variety of like offerings for the film festival. And, you guys are right in the heart of the city, in the downtown core at the TIFF Light Box. And it's really great to have, Toronto is really great with celebrating festivals of all sorts. What do you think a festival like Inside Out contributes to the city's soul and just urban life?
And that's a really good question. Whether it's our festival or others, I mean, Toronto is a city of festivals, which is amazing. I can only speak to our experience, but and when you are able to just walk into a building and whether you know what you're about to watch or you just select something because it's playing, that kind of access to culture is, I mean, not unique to Toronto, but it is especially prevalent in this city. But then you get to walk out of your movie theater and have dinner be at an incredible restaurant that is perhaps a cuisine that you haven't tried before. And again, it's access to different things. And as an immigrant myself, we always talk about the city being a melting pot, but it really is. And it's one of and it works, and that's what's so magical about Toronto is you have an opportunity to be yourself and go to a film festival where your identity is reflected, and you feel safe, but then you have access to so many other things to make your experience rich, so to speak. And from a financial perspective, it's so important to continue to invest in institutions like us because our audience, our filmmakers, or anyone who's coming in to watch a movie, most of the time, then they are taking transit to and from, or they're parking their car and they're paying for parking or paying for gas, and they're going to watch the movie, but they'll pay for concessions and they'll go and they'll have dinner somewhere,
Yeah.
and that's all helping the economy.
Absolutely.
And so it's people think of art as this like flimsy esoteric thing, but it actually helps the community to have things that are happening.
Yep.
So that's why investing in the arts and investing in organizations like ours it's not, yes, it's great from a social perspective, but from an economic perspective, it is also essential, or else it's just condos.
Yeah. It's just condos.
That should be the name of the episode.
Just
It's
condos.
not just condos.
But I think on the topic of condos, like the reason why so many people choose to be in the downtown core of Toronto is because of the diversity. And that's something that the city does amazingly when you look at the mix of arts and culture and the fact that we are such a diverse city. So as you were talking just now, I was reflecting on a movie that I had watched at a film festival that was like, there was a part of it that was focused in Ethiopia. And after the film, I realized there were a number of Ethiopians that were there. I was with a friend. We went with those, with the mutual friend that we had, a group of Ethiopians, and I had Ethiopian food for the first time. And now I go back and it's a part of what I share. So
Yeah.
even when I now go to film festivals, I almost choose, there's the ones that are like, oh, this looks like a really good one that I would usually watch. But I always go for one or two that are just sort of not likely for me to choose, because it just sort of opens up my perspective. And then you realize that what you're actually watching through the experience of being at a festival, you can actually experience right here in the city. So, yeah.
But I'm going to ask you just one quick last question before we get into our what we call quick bites here at Table 6, which is a little bit of a rapid fire. But just a quick question before, because you were talking about, how important it is to the city of Toronto, which is awesome. What would you say would be the mix of your audience? Is it a lot of local people from Toronto, or do you get, international visitors too?
In terms of audience, I would say pre-pandemic, it would have been mostly Toronto, but
Okay.
post-pandemic, because we had to go digital, it really became an Ontario-wide footprint for us. So our program is available to everyone in Ontario to access online. So certain films post-festival are then posted on our digital platform. And that's brought in a lot more people from the outside of GTA community.
Yeah.
We did have a smaller footprint in Ottawa as well. Unfortunately, due to budget cuts, we had to pull out of that market. But so hopefully we'll get some folks from Ottawa as well. But in general, it is a Toronto-specific, Toronto-heavy audience. And then, but where the diversity you'll see is in the age range.
Okay.
So we have a free youth program that happens on opening day called Youth Day. And that's, students and student groups get to come in and watch some content that's, age appropriate. But then we also have conversations or panel discussions in regards to, a wide variety of topics like bullying, coming out, identity, so and so.
That's wonderful.
No, and so that brings in a much younger audience, but then all working our way up from folks who are seniors and everywhere in between. That's where there's a lot of diversity there, for sure.
Nice.
Yeah.
Before we get into quick bites,
Yeah.
I do want to ask about the Inside Out Finance Forum. I think that was a really cool aspect of the festival that really opens up a lot of opportunity for those who are really trying to go big or elevate in some way. Can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, and thank you for asking about that. It's one of our kind of like flagship industry related programs that we do. I think we're entering our 9th year of doing it. It's the world's only queer film financing forum. We're really proud of that, but also that's really sad that we're the only ones that specifically help get queer films financed. And the general idea behind it is we open submissions, and this year we received like hundreds and hundreds of submissions, which also speaks to the need. And once the films are selected, we select anything between 5 to 10. Sometimes we're opening now to series as well. And we get the film teams, so it could be producers, writers, directors. There's always a different combination in the room with potential funders, with mentors to help them get their projects gotten off ground, but also just giving them tips like this is where you can find funding outside outside of, the folks that we already have in the room. This is how you should work a budget. This is what, staffing looks like, and this is how you can staff up on your set. Really a lot of granular information that you don't really get elsewhere.
Yeah.
And that's built this ecosystem at Inside Out, where we have now seen, I think, 40 to 50% of the films that have gone through the process actually
Get to screen.
Wow.
That's
And
so
then
cool.
sometimes get to screen at Inside Out. And so it's like a true ecosystem in that regard. And when back to our strategic plan, that's really where we're doubling down also in terms of, well, if we aren't seeing a lot of support elsewhere, we have to help each other.
Right.
Yeah.
Which leads back to community. So it's
Exactly.
full circle.
Yeah.
That's
Full
great.
circle.
Full circle
Full
moment.
circle.
Yeah.
Of course.
Well, thank you for asking about that. Yeah.
I've got some fun questions for you. We're not going to make it really difficult at all. So
I'll
maybe
be the
we
judge
will.
of that.
Okay, let's see. Question 1. What was the first movie you ever saw that made you feel seen?
This is, I'm going to seem like a serial killer, but The Talented Mr. Ripley, we literally killed people in it.
Our producer is laughing his head off right now. We can hear in our earpiece.
Sorry. But it came out in 1999. And if you're not familiar, Talented Mr. Ripley is based off of an incredible book by Patricia Highsmith. The film's with Matt Damon, Gwyneth Paltrow. And the character is closeted and obsessed with this friend of his. Things happen that are really dark, but there was this tightrope that the character played. Sorry, was this much bigger than a snacky bite or whatever the thing is called?
Quick bite.
Sorry, quick bite. But it really spoke to me because the character was kind of like going through a transformation, but also, I'll just leave it at that.
Good.
Don't worry, I'm not going to hurt you.
I hope not. What's one film you wish you could have programmed?
Ooh, I actually cannot answer that question because the amount of films we have not been able to program far exceeds the films that we have, and that is because programming a festival is a game of Tetris. Some they go to this festival, they want to wait for TIFF, or they want to, they don't want to do festivals at all, and they go straight to. So sorry to ruin the game, but I refuse to answer that question.
We'll let you pass on that one.
Thank you.
So, film festival survival kit. What's in your kit?
Water. She's hydrated all the time. Definitely a snack.
What kind of snack?
Okay, there's these like bars that I get that are like almond flour based.
Okay.
They don't hurt my stomach. Sorry, this is uninteresting. But we also what's it called? We also have some snacks in the green room,
right?
And they're usually for volunteers. I'm not supposed to eat them, but
you're the boss.
Sometimes, exactly.
But sometimes there's a banana, and I want it.
Yeah.
So,
that's a whole other topic.
The real answer is coffee because
Coffee.
I am just.
Yeah.
That's why I need the water to stay hydrated.
I'm with you on that one. Dream guests to do a Q&A with.
Madonna.
Oh. Ooh, that was the fastest answer.
No question.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say dead or alive. So Madonna alive.
Some might say.
Yeah.
You heard it here first on Table 6.
Well, Madonna and I have a share birthday. So we're kind of connected.
Sisters.
Yeah, and I have a big Madonna tattoo.
Oh my.
Whoa.
That's
commitment.
James, are we getting this? Can we show the camera again?
James, where's... Yeah,
I love it.
That's amazing.
So this is actually one of my first tattoos. But Madonna is mother. She's a queer icon. We wouldn't all be here without her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love
that.
This podcast wouldn't even
We
exist.
wouldn't exist. None of us would be here. Thanks, Madge. First thing you do the day after the festival
Sleep.
wraps. Okay.
I'm sleeping.
For a week.
Yeah. Well, actually, that's a lie. Sometimes our ops team is loading out, and I try my best to at least go and help move a box.
Yeah.
Pretend that you're helping.
Yeah, just be like, what should we do with this? But most of the time, I'm sleeping and petting my dog, who is
Lola's
still
in
here?
studio today. She's so
Is she still eating the
cute.
stick?
She's still eating the stick.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is she?
Yeah.
What's her full name again?
Lady Lola Beyonce.
Lady
Lady
Lola
Lola
Beyonce.
That's her government name. Yeah.
Do dogs have birth certificates?
No, but they should.
Right?
Yeah, and they also should make passports for them.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
You know.
I'll work on one.
Yeah. Last question. What does the world need more of?
Oof. I think a little bit of patience could go a long way with each other on the day to day. That's in the like more immediate. I think we all just could really take a beat and be patient with each other because we're all going through something.
Yeah.
And on a larger scale, I think I don't know what the world needs, but I think what I would rather is a reminder that that quote of the arc of history is long, but it bends towards justice. Because now more than ever, it feels like we're being, boiled alive in real time. But I just know that things have been bad before, but we've always, gotten better. And just that reminder that things will, not to sound, cliche, but, we have to trust that things will get better.
We will be okay.
We will be okay. Awesome.
Just hang tight.
Elie, so because you're at the table with Table 6, we ask all of our guests to leave us with a love letter to Toronto. So what would you say if you had to send a love letter to our city?
I would say thank you because Toronto gave me my husband. Yeah. Gave me my dog, who my firstborn, some might say. Very long delivery. And my chosen family.
I love that.
Yeah. So I would thank Toronto for being the magical, complicated city that it is.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for
This is
spotlighting our
great.
festival and doing the work that you guys do. It's really every little bit counts. Any kind of light that we can shed on the work that we do is really appreciated. So thank you.
Awesome.
Thank
That's
you.
so good.
We'll be there.
Yeah, we will
Awesome.
be there.
Yeah, you will be there. Get you guys tickets.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
And that's a wrap on this episode of Table 6. A big thanks to Elie Chivi for joining us today and for the incredible work he and the team at Inside Out are doing to champion queer stories and storytellers. Tickets are on sale now, so don't miss your chance to experience the magic of queer cinema in Toronto. Check out insideout.ca for all details, and be sure to follow Table 6 wherever you get your podcasts and leave us a rating or review if you enjoyed this episode. It helps more listeners like you find us. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you at the movies.